All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. And in this video, man, we are going to talk about news related to Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford, and something Terence Crawford said on the Joe Rogan podcast about being willing or wanting to go straight to 168 pounds to fight for the undisputed title against the winner of Canelo Alvarez versus Jermell Charlo. All sounds good. It's a fight that I think Terence Crawford definitely has a good chance to win if he does it. But at the same time, I don't like it, man. I got to be honest with you. I don't like it. I don't like this trend in boxing. And I will explain what I mean. But look, man, not all undisputeds are created equal. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to be in the 168-pound division where Canelo Alvarez, Terence Crawford, and Jermell Charlo have all been involved in this conversation going on in the boxing fan community about what Terence Crawford should do as far as fighting Canelo Alvarez or Jermell Charlo, who Terence Crawford has his eyes set on. There was a podcast, Joe Rogan podcast. I'm sure most people know who that is and what that is. And Terence Crawford said that he would move to 168 to fight the winner of Canelo Alvarez and Jermell Charlo. I'm going to get into a little bit of trouble, I'm sure, with some people when I tell you what I think about this, but it is very consistent with what I've said about stuff like this the entire time. Whether it's Mikey Garcia, whether it's Canelo Alvarez, it doesn't matter. These type of situations do not prove who the best in that weight class is. They can make for big fights, but like I said, I'm going to explain it in this video. Not all undisputed titles are created equal. Now, before I get into the details of it, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are new to the channel, please accept my invitation to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. And if you're a longtime subscriber and supporter of the channel, thank you so much for your continued support. Now, first things first, for all of the Bud Crawford crybabies out there, who really don't listen to videos and just looking for something to complain about, let me get this out ahead of time. If Terence Crawford were to move up to 168 pounds and fight Canelo Alvarez, I think Terence Crawford has a very good chance to win that fight. Let me say that first and foremost. A very good chance to win that fight. Don't know for sure if I'd pick him, but very good chance to win the fight. If he were to move up and fight Jermell Charlo at 168 pounds, very good chance to win that fight. No doubt about it in my mind. Very good chance to win that fight. Would not pick against him against either guys. Now that is telling you how good a fighter I think Terence Crawford is. Now, let me tell you what I think about the move though. I don't like it. I don't like it. And let me explain why. I said the exact same thing with Mikey Garcia, who was at 135 pounds, that went to 140 pounds to grab a belt, went back down to drop that belt, went back down to 135 to defend his title, then went up to 147 to fight Errol Spence Jr., and then the rest of his career paid out, right? And what Mikey Garcia said he wanted to do was he wanted to be the first person to win titles in 3 divisions in an 11-month span. And if you recall what my opinion about that was, it was the following. That sounds like an ESPN record. Ain't nobody asking you to do that. But most importantly, doing that never proved that he was the best fighter in any of those divisions. Why? Because he didn't fight the best fighters in those divisions while he was there. He did not fight at 135 pounds with Vasily Lomachenko there. He didn't fight Vasily Lomachenko, who was at 135 pounds at that time. He didn't at 140 pounds. I can't remember who the champions were. Just say it was Regis Prograis. I think it might have been Regis Prograis was a champion at the time. He didn't fight Regis. He didn't fight Regis Prograis. He fought Sergey Lipinets. And then at 147, he got smoked, right, by Errol Spence Jr. And that was the time that he probably did go after the best guy in that division at the time, unless, of course, Terence Crawford was there. So we didn't know at the time who the best was between Errol and Terence. Now, let's look at the situation with Terence Crawford and the situation with going for undisputed at 168 pounds. Say he goes up and he beats he beats Canelo Alvarez or Jermell Charlo at 168 and becomes the undisputed champion. Will anybody think that he is the best, that he can beat every guy in the 168-pound division, and he is the undisputed best fighter in that division? No way. Why? Because there's two guys in that division that I will not give Terence Crawford a chance of beating, and that is David Benavidez and David Morrell. Neither one of those guys will I give Terence Crawford a decent shot at beating. However, Terence Crawford is not going to go up there and fight them. Also, at 147 pounds, there's another guy that very well could beat Terence Crawford, as far as we know, and that is Jaron Ennis at the weight class that he's in. So in two of the undisputed weight classes that he would like to hold titles in, and I can understand why he would want to do it. You still have Jaron Ennis at 147 who would not be getting a fight. And you have David Benavidez who, and let's just say David Benavidez, however you want me to pronounce it. I get a lot of little annoying comments about that one. Neither one of those guys proved, Jermell would not have proven that he's better than David Benavidez, and neither would have Canelo Alvarez, who hasn't fought him, and neither would Terence Crawford. And it would seem to me as if all three of them could, let's just say Canelo's undisputed now. For some, Jermell Charlo beats him and he becomes undisputed. And then just say Canelo out that after that, Terence Crawford beats Jermell and he becomes undisputed. What does that prove about the 168-pound division? Nothing. Because none of them fought David Benavidez. None of them would have fought him. And none of them probably are going to fight him. And he's a former champion, a former two-time champion who lost his belts for his own reasons in that division. Now, people will say, well, what about Jermell Charlo moving up there and Jermell Charlo doing it? Like I said, not all undisputed titles are created equal. Some divisions, you've literally been there so long and beat so many people in that division, like the 154-pound division, like Jermell Charlo did, when all of those bunch of guys that were there at the same time. Jared Hurd, Erislandy Lara, J-Rock, Jason Rosario, Jamal Charlo, all of those, Austin Trout, all of those guys were in that division and held titles at one point in time. And Jermell, by either beating, and I forgot Tony Harrison and Brian Castano, all of those guys were in play to see who the best 154-pounders were. And all of those guys in some combination fought and knocked each other off. And Jermell Charlo wound up being at the top. That is not, and you could even say that, and there is no guy down there that is at 154 pounds. It's really a big standout guy, other than the mandatory that he has in Brian Castano, in Tim Tszyu. But Tim Tszyu, in my humble opinion, is nobody's Jaron Ennis, and definitely nobody's David Benavidez. David Benavidez is the dude that needs to get a fight at those championship belts before too long. The one-off that Canelo Alvarez does with Jermell Charlo, to me, I like Jermell Charlo's, and even that, I think, that's still not going to prove that you're the top guy at 168 pounds, because you need to fight David Morrell or you need to fight David Benavidez. I favor Canelo Alvarez to beat Jermell Charlo. I understand why Jermell Charlo on a voluntary fight would want to jump 2 weight classes to do that. I also understand why Terence Crawford would want to do it. At the same time, though, look, man, we're going to have to, there is the concept of people going for big money fights and all of that, and I completely understand that. I don't blame Terence Crawford at all for wanting to do it. However, just how a chance for people to really be able to prove they are the best. That's not fair to David Benavidez. That's not fair to David Morrell to have a bunch of 147 pounders and 154 pounders holding a mini tournament up at their weight class and claiming they're the best at it. And let me repeat what I just said. It's not fair to the guys that are true 168 pounders like David Benavidez and David Morrell to have guys who are essentially blown up welterweights contending for all of the belts multiple times in their weight division and never giving those guys a shot to say, okay, yeah, prove you're better than me. Because I'm telling you right now, I'm not taking any of those dudes over David Benavidez. And I don't think I'm taking any of those dudes over David Morrell, even though David Morrell only got like 10, he has less than 10 fights. Good luck beating David Morrell. Too big, too strong, definitely fundamentally sound and talented. Ain't no way in the world Terence Crawford is beating that guy. I don't think Jermell Charlo may be closer in size. I don't think Jermell Charlo got a chance to beat David Morrell and David Benavidez. And neither do I think Canelo Alvarez really have a shot to beat them either. Those two guys are standing out above the pack in that weight division and deserve to have a title deserve to have their shot at those belts and not have to go wait for the next 2.5 years for a guy that started at a guy that started at 140, a guy that started at 154, and a guy that started at 147. All of those guys fighting each other and going back and forth. While they're all making money, we have the two clearly best dudes in that division sitting there and have to be treated as if they're not a champion, and these guys are better than them in their weight division. I don't like it, man. David Morrell and David Benavidez need to get their shots at those belts, and they need to get them shots pretty soon because that's who the best fighters are. That's kind of like saying we have a fights going on at 147 where there's Terence Crawford, Errol Spence, right? But Gervonta Davis, Devin Haney, and Ryan Garcia are all fighting each other for Undisputed and saying, hey man, well, we're the big money guys, so these guys don't get a fight. We got to wait. They just got to sit there and wait, right? When your eyes and your mind would tell you that these guys aren't beating the guys that are just sitting there looking at them. Anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.